One of the biggest, hugest, most largest,
Detrimental.
biggest misunderstanding ever. One of the biggest misunderstandings in real estate is that when an inspector finds something wrong with the property, the seller is absolutely obligated to fix it.
And that is not true at all. It could be negotiated. Some of them are required. And some of them, they can flat out say no. And this has to do with whether it's lender required, if it's association inspections, and all of that. So we're going to go into it.
And dive into all of that. Here we go.
Hey, everybody.
Sean and Kelly here, Price and Price Group of Samson Properties. And imagine this. You're a buyer. You just got your dream home under contract. You're so excited because you think it's going to be fantastic. Or you're a seller and you just got your home under contract and you're so excited because you're going to get to move on to the next stage of life. And then come the repair requests.
After the home inspection is completed, this buyer in Virginia, whether it was void only or negotiations, there's a chance.
There's a chance. So biggest myth, okay? The biggest thing we got to understand here is that a home inspection is not a punch list for a buyer to send to the seller and say, hey, you have to make these repairs. So we're going to dive into all this. What repairs are sellers required to make? What situations can this come up? And we're just going to deep dive all the way in here.
Yeah, it all depends on the contract, financing, and what both parties have already agreed upon, and then what they agree upon later.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So category 1.
Yes.
Okay.
You do this one.
Okay. We're going to break it into 4 categories, by the way. Category 1 is home inspection repairs. So the buyer, assuming this is a part of the contract, can hire a home inspector. The home inspector comes in, gives them a full report of what's going on. And then the buyer, this home inspection repair is not like we said, it's not a punch list. It does not mean that the seller has to repair everything. It's basically for informational purposes for the buyer. From that point,
it's just for them to determine, hey, is this a risk I want to take?
Right.
If there's a lot of risk, then they may come to the seller, right, and request certain repairs.
Yeah. And then if a buyer does make repair requests, the seller has the option. He can accept it.
Yeah.
He can negotiate. He can reject it. He could offer a seller concession instead. There's a lot of different ways. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes into this. But the inspection is fully negotiable. And if they can't come to terms, the contract can be voided, assuming there's an inspection contingency.
And keep in mind, the inspection is like pretty huge in scope. So I want to give you a couple of examples.
Okay.
And you tell me how a seller may respond.
Okay.
Right? Or I'm going to give you the example of what a buyer may request. Okay. So my home inspection report comes back and the inspector said, the dishwasher does not work. Well, I don't want to buy a house that doesn't have a functioning dishwasher even on day 1 because of all the things.
Yeah.
I want a working dishwasher.
So that's an interesting situation because if the dishwasher is listed in conveyances and is not listed as is, that could be a required repair. But the seller does not necessarily have to. It doesn't mean they necessarily get a new dishwasher. Right. Is the key. So.
And this is one of the things that I think is interesting on the Virginia contract.
Yeah.
There are 2 ways that a buyer can ask for a home inspection. One is void only, which is simply to say, hey, I'm either going to take it or leave it.
Yep, pass, fail.
That's not really how it ends up working in Virginia. It has to in other states. But then there's also that negotiate.
Yeah.
Does that mean the seller has to negotiate?
It just means the buyer has the right to request. The seller does not have to negotiate.
But in Virginia, they have the right to request on void anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
It's weird.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another example. I'm just going to give you one more.
Okay.
Because this happens.
Yep.
Inspectors, don't do this.
Please.
On my inspection report, my wonderfully high-rated inspector said that the HVAC system is working and functioning properly, but it has exceeded its expected lifespan. I want a new one.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And my response is no.
As the seller?
Yes, as the seller. It works perfectly. It's fine. You know? And that is one of the things. The roof. If the roof doesn't leak and it's older. Now, this may be a deal breaker. The insurance.
If my
we talk
insurance
about the
hat is
insurance.
on, you
Yes.
don't talk
Yeah.
about the roof
Yeah.
in that same.
That's
In
right.
that same, you can
Yeah.
talk about other
We
things,
talk about
but not the roof.
windows, water
Yes.
heater. And the truth is, okay, so let's say you have a nice brand like a Carrier, and this is not a plug, so just don't take it like that. Train. If you have one of these nice brand air conditioning systems, I come across these things that are commonly 30 years old and they're working just fine.
That's true.
The typical lifespan is 10 to 15 years. So the inspector is quoting the typical lifespan, but that does not mean that air conditioner is about to die. So you don't get a new air conditioning system. It doesn't work like that.
So the buyer has options, is what you're saying.
Yeah, this is informational purposes. The buyer can make a request. The seller can comply or not. They come to an agreement or they don't.
And if it's something that's super important to a buyer, like I refuse to do this, then they can walk away from the contract. And as long as it's within the timeline of that contingency, they can walk away with their deposit.
That's right. That's right.
So I will take category 2.
Yes.
This is lender required repairs.
Yep. Yep.
So it's not.
It can be a challenging one.
It can be. I want to say I love this one, but it's only because of the nuances. I think it's like so many fun facts in it.
Yeah.
But it's not a fun one. Okay, so FHA may have certain requirements that would be okay. So we have a few of my favorites.
Now, when she's saying FHA, VA, each of these financing types have their own contingencies. That contingency document has its own rules.
Yes. Yes. So, and required repairs.
Yes.
Right? And usually if it's VA, oftentimes they require the seller to make the repairs and not the buyer.
The
for VA.
FHA does as well.
FHA does as well?
The seller, the repairs are required to be made by the seller in order for finance to go through. Now,
I didn't realize FHA was by the seller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I guess I need to. I wonder if that's the part I failed in my life. Okay, FHA examples are peeling paint, right? How picky. Missing handrails, that makes sense. Broken windows, exposed wiring, safety hazards, those all make sense. Peeling paint, give me a break.
Unless it's lead-based paint. If it was built before 1978, even though it's probably been repainted 100 times.
That's a horse of a different color.
I know.
Okay, VA, safety, structural integrity, mechanical systems. They do add pest and termite, which I think is very important, and water intrusion, which I also think is very important.
And their pest and termite is like the whole thing, like exterior buildings, fences, everything.
It's true. But the whole intention of these, I respect the VAs a whole lot more than I do FHAs.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But one important thing, this is where it gets fun for me, is if the inspection brings back some of these things, and it is an FHA or a VA loan, whether your inspection contingency time expires or not, this moves into your finance contingency, which is typically at least double, but a lot longer than your home inspection contingency. Because the thing is if they are not repaired, then you do not get the loan. If you do not get the loan, you get the denial. If you get the denial, then you get your deposit back.
And here's another nuance on this. Remember, we had that one deck for our clients. They bought it, and the deck had some rotted boards on it.
Yes.
So these are only safety issues. For example, this was a VA loan. The deck boards were rotted. They had to be replaced. So the seller hired a contractor. They came in, they put in 3 new deck boards, did not match, did not paint, did not stain, but the safety issue was handled. Appraiser comes out, it's the appraiser's opinion, comes out, yes, this has been handled, and they move forward. So the buyer got a safe property, but it wasn't cosmetically appropriate.
It wasn't pretty at all.
But that's the lender required side of it. Yeah. And
so that's where it kind of is sucky that, like, for FHA and VA, if they do require the seller to do it, then it kind of turns into junk. As if it's cash or conventional, then you can, I'm sure you're going to go into different ways they can negotiate for that, right?
Well, so which bottom line, this is a seller required repair. The seller does not have to do it, but if the seller does not do it, the loan will not go through, so the buyer can void. So the seller, this is the thing, and that's what sellers. So
seller, you still don't have to do it. If you think, hey, you know what,
I'm not going to do it.
My agent has gotten me a backup offer already. It's not FHA, it's not VA.
Yep.
I'm happy to not do this, and we're going to ratify this other contract, or you don't have a backup offer, but you'd rather not deal with it anyway.
Yep. And the nuance is the seller cannot give, on the inspection contingency, the seller can give concessions. On this, the work has to be done. So If the seller refuses to do it, but the buyer really wants the house, the buyer technically could pay for it and have it done, but then the buyer is repairing the seller's house, and if something happens on that property or
that's
that
a weird
transaction,
thing.
it's a very weird thing. So, and conventional loans typically don't have any kind of required repairs, except for we had a transaction with
Navy Federal.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we hate on Navy Fed all the time, except for a couple of the lenders from there.
Yeah.
But seriously,
we had a transaction. We were 2 days out from settlement, and they sent us required repairs
for a conventional loan.
For a conventional loan, and we were out of town, and so we had to try to squeeze.
It doesn't even matter that we were out of town. No. It's the fact that everything that they were bringing up, I brought to the table at the very beginning of everything. I put on their radar.
Yep.
I think this, the last time I ever said that I did all of this work for you ahead of time, it was also Navy Fed.
Yep, that's right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So sometimes conventional can have that as well. But the key
if you're with Navy Fed.
Yeah, and the key even with Navy Fed, it was wires that were coming down that we went in with a contractor. The contractor said these do not have to be capped because they are low voltage speaker wires.
The home inspector said it was fine.
But Navy Fed said, no, we want them capped.
Okay, so you want to hear the fix? This is hilarious.
Yes.
Okay, so Navy Fed said...
Going to the point of the deck board that doesn't match. Go for it.
Navy Fed said, oh, okay, you know what? It looks like we're not going to be able to go to settlement on time, thereby risking our buyer's EMD, their client as well. Even though these wires, we've had a contractor say they were like old speaker wires. The contractor provided
them with a statement saying these were not live and at a risk of fire.
The home inspector, this was not on the home inspection report as being a problem.
Yeah, the appraiser didn't report it as a problem.
But you know what they were okay with? They were okay with yours truly going to Home Depot and working with Fred. Thank you, Fred. We went through so many departments when he saw me wandering around, like trying to think about what could we do. I've seen so many fixes, but not the right size fixes. Fred took me out to the garden department. And in the garden department, we found those cork, those 8-inch cork things that go under flower pots to, like, I guess,
absorb
soak up water.
Yeah.
So we took that and double stick tape and put these cork circles over this drywall temporarily, took pictures of it, and Navy Fed said, oh, okay,
it's great.
Now it's fine.
Now we did cap the wires first, but they wanted the holes capped. They wanted the holes closed.
But you capped the wires, and they said, no, not good enough.
Yep. So
the dead wires, where our buyer was going to go in and do a complete drywall situation. Anyway.
That's right. All right, so we've covered
sorry about that.
Lender required repair. We have some bitterness.
Cork.
Lender required repairs. We've covered the inspection. Now we're going to cover county and municipal. So this is a situation where it's like the city codes or county codes. So for example, in the mid 2000s, I don't know the exact date, they require expansion tanks on water heaters. They require some kind of a support for that. Smoke detector codes have changed. New homes are required to have actual sprinkler systems. So
are they really?
Yeah. Since like 2 years ago, the new homes. So these county and municipal requirements, if there's some kind of a violation there, then that could be required repair. This is not all the time, but if let's say an addition was put on and permits were pulled, then
we're not pulled,
and then the buyer opts to buy the property with those permits not being pulled, then that buyer carries that liability. So the liability goes with the property. So it doesn't always have to be repaired, but that buyer's got to be willing to take that risk forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess that's where your home inspector needs to be way more up to date on things than absolutely. I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and a lot of home inspectors, like we had a client that was a retired home inspector who got an inspection on his house, and he fought back on everything. He was 2 years out of the business, and they had changed all the codes, and he just didn't know. So yeah, it changes all the time.
Well, okay.
All right, so category number 4.
Good to know. Category 4, I like this one, HOA and condo requirements. HOAs are kind of like the FHA of the world, and condo association requirements are kind of like the VA. Condo makes sense, right? It's like they want to make sure that certain alterations need to be approved. You have a lot of old condos here in our area. And one of the biggest things that people don't realize when they're going into these old condos, they're renovating them, they're getting rid of all the old carpet, and they're putting down beautiful hardwoods. Well, if they don't get a permit from the condo association for that, and then they go to sell their property, the condo has to come in and they do their whole inspection, and then they say, there's a violation here because you didn't ask for permission for these floors. And sometimes, like we've had a couple of these where they have to put carpet down.
Yeah.
And that usually comes because they don't have the full concrete in between the different levels.
Yeah.
So it's a sound problem.
Yeah. And you remember the deal that we had about 6 months ago? We represented the buyer. It was a 4-level condo. They typically have this carpet rule, but most of these 4-level units now, the ground level does not have that requirement.
Right.
There's nobody below them.
Exactly.
So we went in, they had renovated this ground level. We put the offer in, understanding that there was probably the sound barriers above, but not on this one. When we got the condo docs back, they had the violation saying that this was not done. So we went to the condo board for them to get the approval with it being on the ground floor.
You can do that while under contract. You can work that out.
But that association would not make approvals without an association meeting, which was scheduled, I think, 2 or 3 months down the road. So long story short, our buyers had to void that contract because they were not going to take the responsibility of having to put carpet down on this floor and change the whole aesthetic of what they were buying.
Well, there was another one. This was a lot longer ago where we represented the seller, same situation. Timing wasn't working out. So luckily the buyer and seller agreed that our seller would put down really inexpensive carpet, like cheap carpet, like boom, 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 put it down, get the inspection done again so that it was cleared of all violations. And the buyer was like, it's fine, I'll just pull that up again and expose the beautiful floors.
That's right.
We don't recommend doing that. You're not allowed. Tisk, tisk, tisk.
Yep. But
but HOAs, let me go back to this. The HOAs, they're like the FHA of it. They are going to do like peeling paint. I understand like dry rot on the wood, but it's like, oh, your light fixture is a little bit crooked.
Your doorknob.
This fence, like one of the wood things is slightly off. We even had one of them recently say that they had to repair like a divot in the sidewalk in front of their townhouse.
Yep.
Which I thought was ludicrous because that's not even their property, but the homeowner had to do that if they wanted to move forward and clear the violation. That's my 2 cents on HOA and condo.
And the HOA and condo, that actually carries a little bit more weight because ultimately, again, the seller does not have to do the repair, but the buyer can void period straight out because there's a title paragraph outside of the condo docs. There's a title paragraph that says that title will be conveyed free of any violations, county, municipal, HOA, condo association, or any liens. So the seller has to give clear title. And if that is going to attach to the title, then the violation must be clear.
That's important to clarify for you sellers. If you have the violation for condo or HOA, it is on you.
Yeah, it is.
Those are on you. That is not like a part of the home inspection.
Yep.
That part's on you to deal with.
That's right.
If you want to move forward.
That's right. Okay, so just kind of in summary, long story short, who ends up paying? First of all, the repairs can always be negotiated, but there's several options. The seller can complete the repairs. Usually in Virginia, on the inspection contingency release addendum, it says it has to be done by a contractor licensed to do it in that area. So if the seller is actually going to do it or hire a handyman, that has to be specified on that. They can give the buyers a credit, a seller concession, so that they can do the repairs in the future. They could adjust the purchase price. They could bring the price down. The buyer can accept the property as is, assuming it's not a lender required repair. They can split the cost, or the parties can't agree and the contract will end. So those are the options for this.
Those are the options, but I want to make a very, very important point. Pay attention. On a part where your agent really matters. Yes. I'm trying to get your attention back here. There is something that your agent, if they do this not in the right way, it will draw the attention of your lender, and what could be totally fine turns into a financing issue
Yes.
that really you can't walk back.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So-
once the lender hears something, they can't unhear it. And that's a really good point.
Yes. So your agent should know how to deliver this and how not to.
That's right.
That's
right.
all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. So in summary, does a seller have to fix this? What are the 4 categories? Let's go through it.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you the categories.
Okay.
1, what if the home inspector says it?
The home inspector says it. It's negotiable. 100%.
Okay.
100% negotiable.
What if the lender says it?
Well, it has to be repaired if the seller wants to move through with the transaction.
Okay. What if the county or municipality says it?
Quite often, this is a yes. It's not always a yes, but quite often it is.
Okay.
It's a required thing.
That's fair. What if the HOA
Yep.
or condo says it?
Again, it's title related, so it's got more weight to it.
That's seller.
It's hard for that buyer to say, I'm going to take this risk on myself.
That's seller, baby.
Yeah, that's seller, baby.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So whether you're buying or selling, the repairs don't have to become, what is that word? A battle. It's like little.
But they often are because okay, I have to backtrack just a little bit. The inspector matters. If an inspector looks at a dryer and says, dryer works great, but the dryer vent has to be cleaned out because it could risk a fire, which could burn the house down. They always use this extravagant language to justify their fee.
They don't always.
They don't always. That's why you have to have a good inspector.
Yeah.
So then the buyer gets very emotional and says, "You've got to clean out the dryer vent."
They get, and it's understandable because it's an alarming.
And then the seller gets offended because now
what do you
they're
mean?
being,
I'm not endangering my family. Why
there's
would you
nothing
think
wrong
I would
with the
be living
dryer,
like
and
this?
we cleaned it out 6 months ago, whatever. So the whole point is, everybody keep your emotions in check. Don't use aggrandizing relationship. Don't use, what's the word when you're like trying to scare, fear mongering.
Yeah.
Buyers stay emotionless, sellers stay emotionless, and let's just work this out and get to an agreement.
Yeah, take Sean's advice and be a robot in absolutely every interaction you have. That's like monumentally important.
It works beautifully. We are celebrating our 27th anniversary tomorrow, and she hasn't left yet. So somehow it works for the non-robots in the world.
I am not a robot.
All right. So
sorry.
If you guys are looking to buy or sell a property and you would like her to cry on your shoulder, reach out to us. The number 703-783-2143, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Hey everybody, Sean Price here with the Price and Price Group, and it's time to go over our market stats for the last 7 days. Forgive me for the environment. I am hosting an open house, but I wanted to get these statistics out to you guys. So again, we're going through the market stats for the last 7 days so that you understand exactly what the market is doing. So as a buyer, you can write your offers appropriately and know what to expect. And as a seller, you can evaluate what offers you're receiving and know what to expect. So let's get into the numbers. So you can see in the last 7 days, the black line here, as always, is buyer activity. 2 weeks ago, it went up a little bit, and now we've had an increase in activity. So our buyer activity has started picking back up since the 4th of July weekend, and since the kids got out of school and summer has kind of kicked off, we're starting to see that buyer activity pick back up. Excuse me. We're seeing inventory is the teal line here, has kind of leveled off. Now we had this dip here, that was July 4th weekend, but if you take that dip out, you can see the inventory is kind of leveled off. And you can see buyer activity has kind of leveled off too if you take away the dip for the travel. So basically buyer activity and inventory have kind of met up with each other. So supply versus demand has become pretty even. So if you go down here to the seller's market versus the buyer's market, this gray line right here is a nice neutral market, and you can see that we're hovering around that nice neutral market. So that's what's been going on this last week. It's great for buyers because there's opportunities there. It's great for sellers when you're presenting your property appropriately and it's at the right price. You're still getting that top market value. So it's a very, very fair market right now. So buyers, when you're out looking, you're still under the possibility of facing multiple offers on a new property that just came on the market, but that is fewer and far between because you have more choices now, and you're going to be able to get at least your contingencies and not have to give everything up. So let's look at what the contracts actually look like the last 7 days. So we can see that the 39% of the properties went above asking price, 31% went at asking price. So sellers, 70% of the properties are still going at or above asking price, and then 30% went under asking price. The days on market is important. 48% of the properties went under contract in the first week, but only 39% went above asking price. So just because it's the first week, sellers, you have to be aware that you may end up just getting an at-ask offer. And if you get that, usually your first offer is going to be your best offer unless you're in a multiple offer situation. It's a good idea to really give serious consideration to that. Buyers, have your agent make sure that they're communicating with the seller's agent to see if there are multiple offers. And if there aren't, it might be safe to come in at asking price and you might be able to get that under contract. 19% of the properties went under contract in 8 to 21 days, and then 33% went over that 21-day mark. So 33% over 21 days, 30% below asking. So that 21, 22-day mark seems to be the cutoff date for when prices there are going to be below asking price offers. You've got 67% of the properties went under contract at within that 21 days. Okay, so are they still getting contingencies? Yes, your buyers, 71% got their finance contingency, 65% got their appraisal contingency, and 56 got their inspection contingency. Now this number's come down. It's been in the high 60s. It actually came down a little bit. So it tells me there was a little bit of competition, or maybe the buyers were strategic and they did a pre-offer inspection so they could submit the offer without inspection contingencies, which is a really, really good strategy. Financing versus cash, again, this is really insignificant, but 14% of the transactions in Northern Virginia were cash. There were 25% of them had seller concessions, so that's becoming a little bit more popular and is happening a little bit more often. And here's the important one, 94% of the sellers were offering buyer agent compensation. So again, this is a totally negotiable part of the contract. Sellers are not obligated to offer any kind of buyer agent compensation, but 94% did. And 83%, if you look here, 83% of those were at 2.5% above or above. So what that says to sellers is that while you do not have to offer compensation, if the net proceeds of an offer are good enough for you, then you may want to consider offering that compensation, because if not, that buyer is going to have to come out of pocket for the compensating their agent. They may not be able to afford that, so that may force them to go to another property that is offering compensation. So sellers, you need to keep that in mind. So overall, it's a fair market. It's a good market for buyers and sellers. It's a great time to be in the market. And just if you're a buyer and you're considering getting in the market, let us know. We can walk you through the process. And if you're a seller considering going on the market, let us know that so we can tell you what you need to do to get your property prepared appropriately so that you can get the top market value. Okay. Our number is 703-783-2143, and we will see you guys next week.